bit of detail about Allstate Northern Ireland. So today, Allstate Northern Ireland is one of the, put my video back on, apologies. Today, Allstate Northern Ireland is one of the largest technology companies within Northern Ireland. And our primary purpose is that we are the technology arm of our mothership, the company, which is a US insurance company, one of the largest insurance companies, providing primarily home and auto insurance. We are based in Belfast, we are based in Strabane and Derry, and we have around 2,000 plus people. We are back to the office this week actually, but as you can see, most of us are still working from home. So we're entering into a new hybrid world of working. And in Allstate, our day job, we build technology, we're in security, into data and finance as well. But we also play a very important role in our community, and we take that very seriously. We have a Force for Good group, which is a track of work that allows our people to invest in our community, in our external and internal people, and in our environment. And people volunteer their hours to use as they will. One of these groups, which has brought this event to you today, is an internal committee called Anybody. And Anybody is very close to my heart, as I was one of the co-founders back in 2013. And it was primarily focused on bringing suicide awareness internally to our teams and our managers. And then we were saying for them not to be a counsellor, trying to give them help in identifying and signposting, and also helping to break the stigma. This today has evolved, and we are now in a place where we're focusing on you, the teachers, and school children. It's been a small team that has evolved Anybody over the 9 years. And today, it's just as relevant. The work that they do in regards to mental health and suicide awareness is just as relevant today as it was back then. And in fact, actually, probably more relevant, if I can say that, today, as we all try and navigate post-COVID in both our personal and our professional lives. I do want to take a moment just to thank Elaine, Phil, Caroline, and Paul. These are the guys who have brought this event to you today, but their drive and commitment has been absolutely tremendous. I am very proud of them. Please keep it going. As I said, what you're doing is just as relevant today, even more so today as it was yesterday, and you're really making a positive impact. So thank you. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to the team and to the professionals to give you an educative hour that hopefully will be very worthwhile. So with that, I will hand it back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Susie. Thanks for those opening remarks and explaining sort of where we're at. And again, we're very happy with the support we get from Allstate management ourselves. Can I thank all the attendees just for taking the time out today to come and join us through all the sort of sports coaching in schools that I do. I understand the demands on the teaching staff, and I appreciate the time and attention this afternoon, you know, staying late after school or whatever. If you're wondering why I've got a red face, I'm just back in from Antrim Forum Athletics, and I've got sunburned this morning at the schools district. So, you know, I mean, it was fantastic just seeing all the kids make connections and the energy that they brought to that sort of in-person event. And here today is what we're about. We're about making connections. So if I just introduce myself, I'm Philip Snoddy. I'm one of the ANI body committee members with Allstate. I'm also one of the mental health first aiders. Allstate trains some of us up to act so that we can be a first point of contact for some of our colleagues. The ANI body, as Susie says, seeks to raise awareness about and reduce stigma around suicide and mental health. There is some clever wordplay, obviously, using Allstate NI in our group name. And it reflects that suicide can affect any of us. It can happen to anybody. I'd love to lay claim to that word smithery, but however, I recently lost my thesaurus, and I just couldn't find the words to say how I felt. Okay, so that's my best joke of the day. Okay. Look, just a bit of housekeeping. There was one or two of you unmuted there. Could you please ask everybody just during the talk to remain muted? There will be time afterwards. Obviously, if a question does come up, please use the chat facility. We have time set aside to answer these questions with Ken afterwards. The shared agenda allowed us for that time at the end of the session, but we'll also leave the channel open beyond that if you want to actually speak with Ken himself. So there is time allowed for that, okay? For those of you new to our offerings, welcome. The inclusion of the prize draw for attendees, it's a bit of a bonus carrot, you know. So when we held it in-house or in-office conferences, we used to provide all the goodie bags. So we have some funds to sort of be able to distribute to people. So there's a prize draw, and Paul will do that sort of after the talk. Over the past few years, we've offered groups this platform to allow them to make connections for helping with mental health concerns in education specifically. And on this occasion, we're focusing on the teaching staff themselves. We all know the safety routine on a plane. If the masks are deployed, put your own on first before helping others, or you may not be able to help others. And this is very much the point of today's exercise with Ken. We've had some interesting presentations over the past couple of years from Resilio, Uber Heroes, Fresh Minds Education, and last November, Stella O'Malley herself. Today, we have Ken, who is representing the Samaritans, and in the past couple of years, we've had a great relationship with Samaritans in all state, and the interactions have always been well received. Without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Ken, who has been in the Samaritans, was it 16 years? So, you know, he's built up a vast amount of experience there through his volunteering. He's currently the Deputy Director of Outreach. And I know recently, well, not recently, we talked about it recently, Ken did a bike ride from Belfast to Gibraltar to synchronise with the opening of a Samaritans office in Gibraltar, and that was some road trip that he shared with us. So without further ado, Ken, I'm going to leave it over to you to give us your enthralling chat today and the offerings that obviously that Samaritans can do and reach out to schools and the programs that you provide. Is that okay?
Phil, many thanks for those kind words, and good afternoon, everybody. As I say, I've been a volunteer for 16 years and Deputy Director for Outreach in the Belfast branch. So what I'm going to do today is give you a wee bit of a short background to Samaritans, who we are and what we do. I'm going to give you a bit about how Samaritans provide support within the education environment and to young people. And then we're going to focus then on looking after ourselves, because nothing works. It's a bit like, as Phil said, within the plane, put on your own mask first before you help somebody else. So it's how we look after and maintain our own balance and our own resilience. Because a good foundation helps everything else work. If the foundation is rocky, then things become difficult. So a wee bit of background at the first of Samaritans. It all started back in 1953 when there was a Church of England rector by the name of Chad Vara. He just conducted the funeral of a young 14-year-old girl, and she'd taken her own life because she had her first period. She had nobody to talk to, and she thought it was some terrible disease. And that prompted Chad Vara and his friends then to start up what would be now, you know, sort of the first helpline. And it was the Daily Mail that gave the name as Good Samaritans, and Samaritans has stuck ever since. But it has no connection whatsoever to any recognized church or establishment, so it stands alone. And essentially, Samaritans, we provide a listening service. That's it. We provide a listening service for people in distress and despair, and may include suicidal thoughts. So that's essentially what we do. It's our vision is that fewer people will die by suicide, and the values that run through the organization. It's listening, confidential. What comes into Samaritans stays in Samaritans unless we have sufficient information and there's a safeguarding issue and we are in a position to do something. And that's, we'll maybe explore that one. It's non-judgmental. We're there to listen. We do not give advice. It's whatever, it's the caller's feelings, it's the person, it's their feelings, it's their thoughts, nobody else. It allows people to make their own decisions. Whenever you are able to voice your feelings in a secure, confidential, non-judgmental way, then more often than not, you come up with your own plan. And essentially too, it's human contact. It's like when somebody rings up and the caller comes through, is it okay to talk to somebody? Yes. Why? Because so often and so frequently one gets isolated and lonely and find it difficult to talk to somebody. So that's a little bit, and we'll support the caller. Somebody to talk to, and listening always helps to talk things through. We don't judge. We keep things anonymous. You do not have to give a name. It can be anywhere, anybody. It's confidential. It allows you to explore your own options, support your own decisions, explore suicidal thoughts, difficult feelings. It's available all day, every day. When you phone that number 116123, you will get an answer. You will get an answer. You phone your doctor, you phone the hospital, you phone 999, you will get an answer. That's another emergency service. Somebody will answer. There's different ways to get in touch: phone, email. We would have normally in the branches we'd had a face-to-face option, but hopefully that will come back. Being able to talk to somebody helps one feel calmer. It's that old thing, a trouble shared is a trouble halved, and that can be so important when you're not carrying a burden, because you can share it with somebody. It's when we talk things, we see things a wee bit more clear. When we put our thoughts into words, it puts them in some sort of order, because we can think so many thoughts in a very short space of time, but when we say them, we put them in order. It's helping you to start your own journey, to restart a journey. So those are some of the things that, and what we won't do, we're not there for a chat. We're not there for a talk about politics or the football or whatever, or whatever it might be. We can't replace family and friends. We can't replace, we're there to, at a time of crisis. We won't give you advice. We won't tell you what to do, but we will signpost you if you require some advice, some assistance. And we're not there to hold you back. In time, you won't need us. It's there at a time of crisis and a time of moment. So that's a little bit about the service, and essentially keeping that whole idea that it's a listening service for people in the gym. And we'll come back to that in because listening means somebody is talking. Somebody is talking, and we all know that the ability to talk and to share and to be open makes such a difference. So that's essentially where Samaritans start. We also, within the environment that we have, and just to give you a wee bit of a background, within Northern Ireland, we have 8 branches across the province, right from Derry, Coleraine, Omagh, Ballymena, Belfast, Bangor, Craigavon and Newry. So it covers the whole of the province. But there are 208 branches across the UK and Ireland, and Samaritans answer a call for help every 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds. That's a lot of calls and everyone. So that gives you a bit of a scale of how it goes. But within the volunteering, within the group, we have a connection to the education environment in schools. And we have 3 sections, packages that were available to the school environment. The first one is what we call the ordeal, which is developing emotional awareness and listening. And this is a curriculum-based lesson plan and a series of lesson plans that are available to schools to implement awareness of emotional listening, resilience, all these things. And that's available for the teachers to deliver. And the information and the links to all that information will be provided at, subsequently after this talk. And that is free, absolutely free for you to use. And what does DALE do? It helps you to assist or provide classroom lessons for raising awareness of emotional health and the importance of recognizing when you need help. The importance of recognizing when you need help. It develops self-seeking behavior and skills. So all those things have to be, we learn those things. Why? Because we learn to need them, and whenever they know they work, we learn to get better at them. All those things that we it's a bit like whenever you were, you first did your first lesson plan, you got better and better the more you practiced. It develops a positive coping strategies and reduces the stigma and barriers of talking about emotional health. We're all very quick to talk about, oh, I've got a sore arm, I've got a sore leg, and so on. And kids are the same on that. And that's the children, it's teaching them well, and also overcoming the stigma of asking for help. Am I tough enough? And everybody's so different. And that is part of, so that's part of the DALE offer that Samaritans provide to the school environment. Going on from that, and that's delivered by the teachers. Going on from that, but then we offer school visits, where we provide classroom activities. We can do assembly talks to various age groups and so on, and activities within a classroom. A bit of an example of how we conduct a classroom lesson would be, and this would be primarily aimed at second schools from year 8 onwards, where we, in a classroom environment, we put them into small groups and we introduce a new pupil into the classroom. But we introduce them when we tell them a wee bit about Samaritans. We never use the word suicide unless they use the word. We talk about difficult thoughts. If they use the word, that's fine. And then we bring a new pupil in. We tell them that Samaritans believe life's worth talking about. Life's worth talking about. And there's nothing you cannot talk about when you have somebody to talk to. And that pupil there, we ask them in little groups to give that pupil a life. Does that pupil live with mum, dad, grandparents, 3 brothers, 2 sisters, pets, dogs, whatever they might be, hobbies and so on. So that pupil then is in the classroom, they have a life. Then we ask them to give that pupil worries. So what worries would that pupil have? And there are no wrong answers. Worries could be anything from family arguments to financial, to sexuality, anything at all. Absolutely anything, no wrong answers. So with life from worries, that pupil Sam, and Sam could be a boy or a girl, unless there's already a Sam in the classroom. That life from worries leads to moods. So what moods would those be? They could be anything: angry, frustrated, happy, anxious, depressed, suicidal, whatever they decide. So lives have led from life from worries to moods. So how does Sam cope? How does that people cope? And they'll come up with all sorts of things. Visits the fridge, exercises, plays football, listens to music, retail therapy, whatever they decide. But invariably in most groups, they talk about communicating and talking to somebody. That's a great idea. Okay, right. So who do they want to talk to? They'll talk to mum, dad, uncles, aunts, siblings, teachers, coaches. They'll come up with it. School nurse, whatever it might be. Okay, so they're going to talk to somebody. What do they want whenever they're talking to somebody? What do they want? And they'll come back, they want love, they want advice, and somebody chips up, they want somebody to listen. There's a good idea, somebody to listen. Right. And what else? They want somebody to keep it confidential. Great idea. Not a case of telephone, television, and tell everybody. Somebody keeps it confidential. Right. And what else? Right. Somebody comes up with non-judgmental. Right. So it's their thoughts, not what somebody thinks they should be talking. Right. Non-judgmental. And somebody they can trust. Wow. And they've come up with, they haven't been told any of this. They have decided that this is what they want. And what did we say at the start of the class? There's nothing you cannot talk about when you have somebody who gives you those three things, or those four things, who listens, is confidential, non-judgmental, and somebody you can trust. There is nothing you cannot talk about. Wow. And they came up with that themselves. And that doesn't matter whether you're in year 8, year 14, 25, 55. There is nothing you cannot talk about when you have somebody who's going to listen. And that leaves out, oh, right, okay. And it's the realization, and it never ceases to amaze me, the silence that comes into the class at the end of that lesson, whenever they realize that they came up with this answer, they came up. Would they be able to recognize? Would they be able to support and listen to somebody? Would they be able to help? Would they listen? Would they keep it confidential? Wow. And it's a powerful lesson for that. Ooh. And they haven't been told a thing. They came up with all that. So that's something that we do within and visiting the schools in the primary environment. We don't talk about those things. We talk about perhaps little bags of worries, little things that are put in their bag, and the bag gets heavier and heavier. And it's all manner of little worries that burden us down. But when we take something out, the load gets a bit lighter. When we take something out, when we share something with somebody, take something out, oh, it just becomes so much easier. Little bag of worries and all those little small things I've been able to, and it's never the wrong thing to be able to share and to have the confidence to talk to somebody about feelings. A good lesson, and talking to each other. So that's said a bit about Samaritans in the school. The final part of our Samaritan package to the school is a slightly different one, and it's probably the only area of Samaritans where we actually give advice. And this is the step-by-step program. And the step-by-step program is a service that is available to a school where they have there has been an incident, perhaps of an attempted suicide, or there has been a suicide, be it among a student, a parent, or a member of staff. And that is something that is, that just comes out of the blue, and it's something that you don't plan for. It's difficult to, and all of a sudden the phone goes, something happens, this has happened, and bang, next day you're in school. What do we have to do? The step-by-step program is there to support the senior management team and the staff in order to provide that and to help. It reaches out to high-risk people, communities, to reduce the risk of further suicides, supports the school community to prepare for and respond and recover from an attempt or a suspected suicide. And this is something that's been operating throughout the, it started in about just 2010, and it's now been brought into right across Ireland. And it is an amazing service, and it provides information and support to help the school community to come to terms with what has happened. And this happens at an instant. It could happen tomorrow morning when you, and that's and it's a step-by-step program where we have trained postvention volunteers who will provide support to that senior team. And there's plenty of support from the Education Authority for the pupils in the SAP, but who looks after, the teacher and who has his pupil, 2 classes a week, or who looks after, and some will cope better than others, and so that's what it's aimed at, and it's there. And again, those details will be sent on to you. So that's a little bit about what Samaritans can provide within the school environment, and all those details will be forwarded on. But as I said at the start, none of this works unless we're in a good place. We're in a good place. How am I coping? How are my foundations? Well, we have a classroom. We have a classroom of folk. We are all expecting so much thing. And then what? We have things going on in our own lives at home. We have all manner of, like everybody else has. And it's, how do we cope with that? How do we manage ourselves? What do we do? Are we in a position to be able to share? And do we have the confidence to be able to share? Like one of the stats that 1 in 4 adults will experience mental health problems in their lifetime. 1 in 4. 3 out of 10 have experienced mental health problems in the workplace. And stress is now the most common cause of long-term absenteeism from work. All right, so that's wow. Because so how do we manage? How do we cope? How do we look after ourselves? And one of the great things that we're able to do is to be able to communicate. We learn to communicate. We learn how to share. And it's a practice that we don't have to be tough. You are not on your own. And one of the most important things is being able to talk. But being able to talk requires somebody to listen. And that can be somebody to listen. Can be yourselves, can be staff members, can be at home. So Samaritans have come up with listening tips. So I think, oh, right, listening tips. I'm a good listener. Why? We call them our shush listening tips. S-H-U-S-H. Shush listening tips. And the first S starts with show you care. How do you show somebody you care when you're listening? How do we do that? Take a food for thought. We put our phone away. We look the person in the eye and we're quiet. Wow. How many times whenever we want to talk to somebody, how many times do you want to talk to somebody whenever they're looking at their phone, they're looking out the window, they're watching TV, and you think to yourself, they're not listening. Why bother? And when somebody looks you in the eye and is quiet, you know they're paying attention, don't you? Wow. Yeah, it's okay to talk. Wow. Right. Yeah, somebody cares, because it was the Dalai Lama that said, when you talk, you are only repeating what you already know. But when you listen, you may learn something new. Right. When you listen, wow. And flip that the other side. When you're talking to somebody, wow, it's such a difference. It makes such a difference whenever somebody is not interrupting, and we're all guilty. We are all guilty of what? I can't wait till they give over, because you know what? My story's better. We're all guilty of that. I have a better story than you have. Oh, blimey. No, be quiet. Listen. Show you care. And that works for a colleague. It works for home. It works for pupils. It works for everybody. And most importantly, it works for yourself when you are talking to somebody. Yes, somebody that I feel I can talk to. Showing that you care makes such a difference. And that eye contact is so important, that you look at somebody, show sincerity. So that's the first H. Then we have the first S. Then we have our first H. What? Have patience. Whoa, have patience. What? How many times? And that is such a difficult thing to manage, is our time. Is this going to take long? Oh, I'll forget it. I'm not going to talk to you. Why? No, you just can't wait till I'm finished. So no, you don't show you're not having the patience and allowing somebody to finish their sentence. We're all good at finishing, butting in. And most people, and it was Dr. Stephen Covey who said, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. We're all guilty of that, aren't we? We're all guilty of, well, what am I going to say next? No, you don't have to. You do not have to fill the silence. Whenever I have something to say, let me say it. Wow. And that's such a, well, if you're going through a difficult time and somebody, it's just going to take long, pull yourself through. No. Listen to understand. Listen to the individual, and all in your classroom. If you have a classroom of 25, 30, whatever, everyone is an individual. Everyone is different. Listen to understand. And that applies to ourselves as well, whenever we're talking and sharing with all the stress that we're having through. Listen, wow, it's such a good thing when somebody listens to understand, listens and allows you the time to find the right words. Remember what I said earlier on? We can think 100 thoughts in a very short space of time, but when you put it into words, this is how I really, is it? No, it's not. No. Take your time. How do I really feel? An example of somebody calling Samaritans, a nurse. She's been in accident emergency for 5 years. She's working 60, 70 plus hours a week. Really stressful, and trouble at home. Mother not well, all sorts of things. Can't cope. Nobody to talk to. And having somebody to talk to, just to share her feelings, share her, just takes that, and was having difficult thoughts, but being able to share those things allows her to reestablish I feel so much better being able to share that with somebody who listened, and it allowed her to put her thoughts in order. Right, need to get some sleep here because I'm back on duty next morning. Wow, that helped. Being able to talk, being able to share those things. So that's having the patience. And then we have the first U, the U, SHU, using open questions. So what do we do with that? We all know about that. It's not, it's not about yes and no stuff. It's about, tell me a bit more. How did that make you feel? Right. Yes. Because it was Scott Peck who said, true listening is setting aside of the self. True listening is setting aside of the self. Right. Yeah. Tell me a wee bit more. Tell me how that feels. All right. So what happened next? Right. Explain that a wee bit more to me. Right. Does that make sense? Oh, when you have somebody that you're talking to and you're sharing your feelings and they ask you, tell me a bit more. So, right. And how did that make you feel? And, oh, and then, and they're giving you the care, they're giving you the patience to expand on that. Wow. Isn't that a, whoa, hold on. Oh, right. Okay. And so therefore, what? You're able to share a little bit more in confidence in somebody that is, wow, it's allowing me to essentially it's resetting my bricks, you know, they're all over the place. Oh, right. Putting in them in order. Right. Why? And it's you doing that. And it's whenever we are able to reset those ourselves. Wow. And we learn things, don't we? We're always within Samaritans, we have on our shifts, we have a day leader who looks after the volunteers for that day. If they've had a difficult call, they've had a really challenging, whatever it is. And we talk to each other about that. We support. How did you, oh, I was fine. Did I did the right thing, or I talked and yes, and I'm not carrying it home with me. So that also applies within your environment to be able to, I've had a difficult day, whatever it is, I'm able to share it with somebody of, you know, challenging, but also taking time to look after colleagues, because some are better than others, some are all, you know, and some are not, but it's been able to provide and to know that that support is there. Using open questions, tell me a bit more, how did that work for you? How did that? And that gives me a wee bit of strength. And then we get on to our second H, say it back. Say it back. What? It is. It's say it back. Do I hear what, are you telling me, or am I putting my own interpretation on it? No. What? Listening is not a reaction. It's a connection. It's being connected. It's saying it back. That makes, oh, right, yes, I understand where you're coming from. I totally understand. And that, well, how does that make you feel whenever you know that somebody understands your issues, your problem? Not to tell you, don't be silly, don't be daft, or whatever it might be, or to fix it, but allow you to come up with your own fix. Wow. Does that make a, right, yeah, you know, that's how I feel. That's, yes, I understand where you're, all right, okay, yep. So what options, what can you do? What's next? And that gives you the opportunity to reset and to gather confidence. Because in so many ways, it's our confidence and it's our ability to manage our own resilience, isn't it? Whenever we are confident of what we're doing and how I feel and how I can look after myself, wow, then I'm able to do all the other things that I have to do. It makes all the difference. And finally, we'll come on to the final H, and that is having courage. Having the courage. Wow. Now that takes two sides, doesn't it? Having the courage to listen to somebody. Having the courage. I don't want to ask the question. Why? Because I really don't want to know. Oh, no. Somebody's struggling. Would you recognize that? I'm here if you need to talk. Oh, I'm all right. I'm fine. Everything's fine. If you need to talk, it could take time. It could take time for somebody to open up. And also, one of the great things, it takes great courage. And it was Winston Churchill that says, courage what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage also is what it takes to sit down and listen. To sit down and listen. Have I the courage to talk to somebody. So many times when the call comes in at 116 123 Samaritans, and the caller says, is it okay to talk to someone? Yes, it is okay to talk to someone. Why? Because we're here to listen. We're here to listen, to talk to somebody. And that's a big step. When you have taken the courage, taken the step to, I want to talk to somebody, and you find that person who's going to give you the care, show you the care, and have the patience and so on. Wow, that is a powerful tool to be able to build on one's own resilience, to be able to share in confidence, the stresses. And it's not just within the school environment, but tie that into your own environment with home, family, all manner of things that are going on, all manner of things. Have I courage to talk to somebody, to share, to be connected, to not to be isolated, not to always know, to always know that there is someone you can talk to? Could you be that person? Could you be that person to be there to support a member of staff? That is also another challenge, to be that supportive and non-judgmental, all manner of things. And it was another great saying that, and it was Maya Angelou who said, I have learned that people will forget what you've said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Wow. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because, wow, we all, whenever we talk about somebody or somebody we know, and we immediately come up with an opinion, they're this, they're that. But if we come up with somebody, oh, they're a good guy, they're great, they're super, and you say, well, what did they do? No idea. What did they say? Can't remember. But you know what? It made me feel good. Wow. And we all know people like that. Could you be a person like that too? And it's not about being wishy-washy with them, but it's, you know, it's being there to support, to be there to assist, to be there to be for somebody. And in that environment, you're meant to be all things to all people, including the pupils, staff, parents. But and then when you leave, go home, wow, you've got a whole lot of other things that you have to deal with. And it's looking after that resilience, and it's the same thing that you do whenever we're with the children. It's teaching that it's paying attention to those feelings, and it's knowing where the dangers are. It's paying attention to those feelings, and it's connecting, with those that you trust, those the ones the ones you love, and it's being able to, right. And it's all those simple things that we all know. I've talked to you there about all these listening tips. We all know every single one of them, everyone. But on many occasions, we don't give patience. We look at our phones. We're not listening. We fall into all those traps. And one wee simple thing, and it's a sort of like a listening diary, or it's something that you could challenge yourself. Is it with a colleague? Find out something new about a colleague that you didn't know. Why? Because you listen. It's asked, whatever. I didn't know you did that. Oh, I didn't know you had an interest in this. Oh, I didn't know, whatever it might be. Wow. Why? Because you listen, picking up things. So, and that's also about our resilience is also about making time for something that makes us feel good, whatever it might be. Making time for something that makes us feel good. But to alleviate, and we all experience stress in the course of work, but it's something that makes us feel good. And I keep sort of saying all these things, but it all does come down to a bit of practice. Resetting our foundations, and being able to talk. And you all know that I said it, that Samaritans helpline is 116123, and only a quarter of our callers would experience suicidal thoughts. Only a quarter of our callers. And you say, remember I said we take a call for help every 10 seconds. So only a quarter experience. Many have lots and lots of other issues that are going on, from isolation and loneliness, and just need somebody to listen. Just need somebody to listen. And there's no need for a name. And it's totally anonymous. So when you phone that number 116123 at 10 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll go to some volunteer. It'll just be exactly the same as me, and we'll just listen and ask those questions and give time and allow you to. I just feel so much better having shared something, shared a difficulty. A long distance lorry driver sitting in the back of his cab at 2 in the morning, having very dark thoughts, but has a lovely home and a caring wife, but he's in a place that gives him dark thoughts. But what does he do? He picks up and he talks about it, and he knows, I'm feeling better now. That's okay. I just needed to get through, because perhaps I don't want to share with somebody else, and perhaps it might worry them or whatever, for all manner of reasons. But to know that you are never, ever on your own. To know that you're never on your own. And it's that knowing that not only within Samaritans, but perhaps you have somebody. Could you be that support for somebody? Just to listen. And it was Jimi Hendrix. They keep coming out with these little singing. It was Jimi Hendrix said, "Knowledge speaks, wisdom listens." There's a wow. And we all like to consider ourselves knowledgeable, but would we? I'd rather, think I would be, wise. And as we perhaps get older, we always like to think we are a little bit wiser as to how we conduct and how we look after not only ourselves, but how we look after others. And do we have the strength, and do we have the ability to support? And that is it is about that support and about that it comes, but it all comes with practice. I'm a much better listener than I was when I first joined Samaritans, as you are all. Wow. Whenever you were first fresh out of college, what in the teaching, wow. Now you're a much more polished, all those things, but that takes practice, and you're supporting other ones and other young teachers, and somebody who's having a difficult time. And we all experience so many different things, so many and things that can affect us. It's the middle-aged guy who has everything, but he still has dark thoughts, and perhaps he drinks too much, and that adds to us, and then he becomes tired, and then and he's in a cycle, and he doesn't have anybody to share, but he knows that if he can pull on his resilience and his ability, he can fix himself. He can fix himself, but he just needs to share some thoughts, to share something, because I know I can do this, but I can't do it on my own. I can't do it on my own, but I can do it with somebody is there to support me, not to tell me what to do, but to support me. Yes, and the knowledge that that person knows that support is available, and it's there for him to reset. And that's, now whether it comes from Samaritans or whether it comes from some other source, but to know that and to search for it and to practice it. And what better place than amongst colleagues? Do I have the courage to be there for somebody? Do I have the patience to listen? Do I have the ability to show somebody that I care? Or, I mean, I can't do this right now, but you know what? I really, really would like to listen to you, you know, tomorrow afternoon, whatever. That would be great. Of all the time. Oh, okay, that would be nice. Yes. It's having the courage. Whenever you need me, I'm here. Let me know. Please do, because I want to be there for you. I want to support you. Wow. Is that an empowering thing to do? I think it is. And you all know, whenever you have your pupils that come through your classes, and in as the years go on and you see them in various things and you go, wow, yeah, isn't that fabulous to see how they have gone on to do whatever. And you played a part in that. Wouldn't it be great to play a part in a colleague and to do, wow, that was something good. And it's also reset yourself that, wow, you did play a part. I look back at some of my teachers and, you know, whatever, that, wow, they were a good guy. They were a good teacher. They were whatever it might be. And it's that important bit to acknowledge. And that I am not always perfect, and I know where to find help. I know where to find help. I know where to go. And that ability is practiced. It's very much practiced, and it's something that we should cherish amongst us all. So that's just a little bit, and it's also, it's that sense of isolation in a crowd. Isolation. Am I the only one? Oh, am I the only one who feels like this? Dear, and I mentioned it too in a wee bit. I mean, we part of that, the school thing, is to lift the stigma of asking for help. Lift the stigma of, well, I'm struggling to cope. Yeah, it's not, you know, it's not wrong to say I need some help. I need some support. Just because somebody else is able to do all that thing, well, we're not all the same, just as well too. It's to lift that, but it's more a case of, you know, it's not a good thing not to ask for help, to be able to ask for help, to be able to ask for support, to be able to seek out support without fear of judgment, without fear of feeling, you know, weak or feeling inadequate, but is to know that, yes, support, and that in itself can be quite, wow, I know it's there when I need it. And you know what? It works. Wow. To know that it works because it's there. Wow. It's not, it's not there just for show or something, but yeah. And at the school, that we do some stuff within our sports environment. As we talk about, a team's only as good as its weakest member, and we all look after to bring everybody up to the level that where they all perform well. So it's we look out for the team, we look out for support. Do we acknowledge? Are we aware of somebody's not coping too well, or somebody? Are you okay? Do you need some help? Do you need some additional support? And it's being able to recognize that and to offer that support and to seek out that, because it's there, and it's such an important thing to do, because as I said to you, within our own environments, we support each other, because it only works because we're there and the volunteers are there. School only works because the teachers are there. Wow. It only works because you're there to support. And it's similarly to you at a home environment. Wow. If I'm in a good place, what's around me will work better. And to know that help is available. So I think we've gone a fair bit. We've covered a bit about how Samaritans, a bit about the support that we provide within the school environment, but importantly, it's about how we look after ourselves, and are we able to talk, and can we listen? So I hope that all made a bit of sense. I didn't put up any slides purely because the whole fact of practice what we preach, it is about listening. It is about, and we develop the art of listening. And we all become better listeners. And all that, I'll send all that information. It'll all come through Phil and the team at Allstate. And but no, that's great. And also the information which will lead you into Samaritans, so that if you require anything out of Samaritans education team and across the province, that information's there, and emails and so on, and that we can support. And I would say we visit many schools across the province, and with the various things that we have to offer, and that step-by-step program in the event of a critical incident is wonderful. It's fabulous. Some of the work they've done across the UK and Ireland, absolutely. So I leave that now, and let Phil over if there's any questions or any thoughts. And there's a draw coming up, so there we go.
Thank you very much. Look here, folks. I know we're all at home. What about a wee virtual round of applause for Ken there, because that's very informative chat. Okay, look, we're going to go to the questions just a wee minute, but I'm going to be selfish and ask two of my own here. You talked about the classroom talk. Now, is that, and this is maybe me coming from the sports background where I like to actually coach the coaches, because you can do so much more if you teach somebody else to be able to do that. So in those classroom talks, is that directed at the pupils, or do you go in and teach the teachers how to be able to do that talk? Is that
in that classroom talk, we go in as volunteers. We always go in pairs, so the two volunteers would go into and conduct the lesson, and the group is split up into small groups of maybe 4 or 5, and they work as, and we give them a flip chart sheet, and they draw a stick person or something, which is the pupil Sam's, and then they have a chat about the various ones with life and worries and moods and so on, and we pull it all together, so everybody gets a stay.
Yes, I mean, you get to run that, but what I'm sort of getting at is that something that maybe a couple of the teachers can see that being done, and then they can do it throughout the school? Is that a format or something that you
Well, no,
have
certainly
down to be able to?
the teacher, there
Sure.
always has to be a teacher with us in the classroom, and the teacher would, and they can certainly free to do that themselves. Sometimes it's a good thing that they find that an outsider comes in and does something that the message gets across in a slightly different way than sort of the normal teacher. We have done quite a number of schools where we have done the whole school, and right through from year 8 to 14, and it's maybe taken 3 or 4 weeks to do that in their whatever free periods or whatever sort of alternative periods that they have. But certainly the teachers are free, and we can tell them to we can show them how to go through it. And it's not difficult. It's just throwing out the questions, and the children come up with the answers. They come up with the answers, and it's just fabulous to see how they. And sometimes it gets into some challenging areas, and we have to be careful that there hasn't been something within the class, and the teacher's always there to be aware of if something difficult comes up, that a pupil has had there's been a challenging times in their own family and so on. But I'm always very mindful of that. But the outcome is fabulous. And I have gone back I remember going back into a school a year later, and I didn't recognize the class. And as soon as I come up, they said, "Oh, Ken, it's you again." And I thought, what am I going to talk to them about? But I asked them, did they remember? And they did. The importance of being able to talk to somebody, and it was still in their front. And I thought that was brilliant. That these were young guys of 16, 17. That the importance of being able to talk to somebody who's going to listen. Wow, I thought that was brilliant.
That's excellent. And they can contact you directly, or they can contact, to talk about that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we'll send through those emails and those contact addresses. Yeah.
You discussed the step-by-step program, and to be honest, is that a postvention thing, or is that something you can almost have ready to go? Because we all know it impacts so many schools, so many parts of our lives, and it just happens, and you really need it there on the Monday morning, straight away. So how does that work? Can you just
absolutely. We have a leaflet, and it's called "Help When You Need It Most." Mm-hmm. And it goes through all manner of things. It helps actually and some schools will have a response plan, a critical incident response plan as to what happens. And this covers all aspects of things. You've got to get a letter. How do you announce this to us? What happens when this happens? This has got to happen tomorrow morning. What do you do? Does things happen in social media? There's all manner of things to cover off. Do you write a letter to parents? What do you put in that letter? How do you word it? We have all sorts of examples and support, handling media. It's breaking the news. Contacting. And being sensitive about what's happened, and making all these sorts of things are available on that step-by-step program. But there also is a substantial support through the normal education authority. This is something that we offer to a school, in that, and it's just, if you want it, it's there, and there's no charge. It's absolutely, there's nothing there. It's just so it is available for support, and it also, who does the vice head, who does the head call at 7 o'clock in the morning when they're day 2, and so all sorts of things happen. I need to talk to somebody. Whoa, 116 123, or the postvention, somebody just to sound things off. Where do they go at 11 o'clock at night, and it's the end of day 2 after something's happened, and perhaps a couple of teachers aren't coping well, they go, who looks after them? And it's, it's there to support primarily the teaching staff and the senior management staff, to help them get through the days ahead. What do you do on an anniversary? Oh, but all manner of things.
Yeah, I know that feeling, actually. Anniversaries. Elaine, are you on the call there? Can you?
Yeah,
field any of
I'm
the-
on. I have a couple of questions here, Ken. First one, are programs more appropriate for post-primary?
There's the more, yes, there would be more. It's we treat things slightly differently. It's a bit more softer approach, and just about the for the primary schools, of being able to, the ability to learn how to talk, to be able to share feelings, and it's to open up, and it's in a safe environment. In the secondary schools, it's perhaps they have seen a wee bit more difficulty of within life and all manner of things that are going on around them, because they're immediately thrown into, imagine, in year 8, you're mixing with ones, in year 13, 14, and there's all manner of things going on and instances. So it's and those feelings of, when we said about in the classroom environment, when they talk about what worries, and it does come up, your sexuality, your body image, all these are worries that are with young people at at more in that secondary environment, perhaps, than there would be in a primary environment, and become more, they're on the social media, all that sort of difficult area. So that's so it's and being able to manage our emotional health, and to find ways of coping with that emotional health, or recognizing that there is an art in keeping your emotional health in a balanced way, the same way as you keep your physical health, and it's teaching those things, and giving them the skills to practice that. It's a slightly softer approach in the primary environment.
Can I just add to that, Ken, and ask in particular about the sort of 10-week deal program? Is it really post-primary?
It would be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of other questions. Phenomenal. Are there opportunities to volunteer with the Samaritans at present?
Oh yes, it all works because everyone's a volunteer. When we have in Belfast, we have about 140, 150 volunteers. Everyone is a volunteer. We have a part-time administration staff in the office for various things, but everyone, our director, everyone is a volunteer, and throughout all the branches across the province, and we're always looking for volunteers. And we have teachers, both retired and currently, who volunteer. So it's and yes, and again, volunteering is you can apply online through Samaritans.org and fill out an application form. The training lasts round about between 6 and 10 weeks, depends, and sometimes availability can be delayed, and it's quite intense training. And once the training has been completed, you are teamed up with a trained volunteer, so they would mentor you for probably somewhere in the region of about another 6 weeks. So you're not just sort of, right, you've done your training, there's the phone ringing, answer it. Oh dear. That can be a wee bit. It's like you going whenever you're on a teaching practice. You went on a teaching practice, with somebody, and you stood in a class and you listened and all that sort of thing. So it's the same with the mentoring. And supporting, listening to a call, listening to some calls before you answer your own, and then talking about how it went, and just sort of generally getting sort of eased into it and so on. But we're always looking for volunteers, always.
One last question. Ken, you say that you allow people to reach their own decisions or conclusions. If you sense that their solution is suicide, how do you address this?
We'll explore their thoughts of why it would be. Now, remember, in fact, only on very rare occasions would we even get a name of a caller. The calls cannot be traced, so we have no idea of any number or where they are. And only in the event of the caller telling us where they are and asking us to do something, then we will do something. In the event that we establish that they are of a vulnerable adult or an underage, again, we will ask for information. If that information is not given, we can do nothing. If somebody says that they're intent on ending their life and they have a plan how to do it, we'll ask them to explore these reasons, and they've come to that decision, and sometimes it is a case of sharing those decisions, sharing those thoughts. Sometimes, and if you listen carefully enough, you can hear sometimes the conversation change from I said I might, maybe, and it becomes that element of perhaps not. And the one great thing to think about on many occasions is, because the caller has reached out at that time, is perhaps that they may not be they're maybe searching for another solution, searching for a connection. And if that connection is provided, it can also be a bit of a hook to say, I'm going to live with these thoughts. I'm not going to die with these thoughts. And it's giving that occasion, and it's giving that space. And as we talked about, it's having the patience to allow to explore. And it's only when you explore and I mean, it's been a like of a call, somebody who life is going to, I have a plan, and it tells you exactly how they're going to do it, but I'm not going to do it now. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So it's right. Yeah, right. So they're not going to, right. So let's just talk through more about, and I said, right, I'm okay now. I'm going to go. Right. So it's sharing those thoughts. So, and maybe he could be sharing those thoughts, hopefully, for the next many years. It doesn't actually, right, because I was able to connect to somebody who listened to me. And you get all, and you hear all the difficulties within the life and so on. And and sometimes it is so difficult, and that's why we have to support each other to hear what has happened. But you can't show shock, you can't show wow, and it's allowing them the space and the time to share those feelings. That in itself tells the caller, tells the person, you are not on your own. Wow. Because so since I first started one thing that really sort of shocked me and surprised was the amount of the depth of isolation and loneliness that there is out there. And that's not necessarily because they don't have anybody, because they don't have anybody to talk to who will listen. I have nobody to share these things, share these thoughts, share these dark thoughts. I have nobody. They're just mine. And when you look into your own dark thoughts, they get darker. But when you are there with somebody in a dark place, you're not on your own. And that in itself can be quite a, I can cope. And it's how we all, and any of this sort of difficulties in life, it's all about how we cope. And it is how we cope with success, how we cope with difficulties, how we cope with bereavement, how we cope with how do we cope with all these, with stress and all manner of things that goes on within our life? How do we manage our resilience? How do we, and being able to share something, but being able to share something makes, I know it's that listening is not a reaction, it's a connection, being able to connect, and that's something, being connected with somebody can overcome isolation and loneliness. Does that answer? It's, we're there to listen to somebody. We can't fix, but so many times we have, when we're given the tools to fix ourselves.
I suppose so, the fact that someone asks for help means they want to live.
It's when somebody wants to talk, and that in itself can be a major step for many. Is there somebody there who will listen? Yes. And that in itself can be, we all know whenever there's a bit of a difficulty in our lives, so you share with somebody, wow, doesn't matter how small or how big it is, but if you say, oh, wow, glad I got that off my chest, whatever it might be, no matter how small or how big, it's to know that, yeah, somebody listened, didn't judge, showed they care. Yeah, and we can all do that. Nobody, we're not, none of us is anything, we're all the same. We can all have the ability to do that.
Okay, thanks, Ken. There's a comeback here. I'm going to throw it at you. So there's somebody very keen to volunteer. Says they had completed the online registration for volunteering a while back, but was told there was a long waiting list. Would you have any advice about waiting times?
Hold on and have patience. The reason why that because of COVID, much of the training was done in branch, in classroom, in a sort of together environment, and COVID trashed all that and sent it all out into Zoom and online and so on, and that, and all of a sudden it just sort of pretty well happened overnight. Wow. And that became a real difficult, and it created a bit of a hiatus and a backup of volunteers, and we could only train so many at a time because we have to go through, you do it at you have your teaching practice and skills, same as we have listening practices and running through scenarios and so on, and that also all takes time, and has, when you can do it in a room in a branch and so on, it can be done really quickly. But Zoom is going to be 7 o'clock, and oh dear, I can't do this, and my technology is not as good as somebody else's. And so that's the reason for the delays. So have patience, hold on. They will come back to you, and they certainly, whatever branch you apply to, they do need your volunteering ability would be fabulous. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Great, thank you, Leanne. Look, again, there's an opportunity at the end here, but I think Paul's just waiting here to get the prize draw done. Paul, are you on the line there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Phil. Over to me for a more light-hearted part of the proceedings. It's always good to hear Jimi Hendrix been mentioned anywhere at all. I don't always listen to Jimi Hendrix, but when I do, so do the neighbours.
It's a connection.
Absolutely. So, folks, we've got 3 vouchers here to put towards a spa treatment or treat day or whatever, and we'll get in contact via email to the winners. So I have already put 3 numbers through the random number generator here. And then third place for £40 voucher is Maureen Sue. Is Maureen there? Can you make herself known?
I have an email for morning.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
okay. And for £60, we've got Evelyn McDonald. Evelyn there?
Yes, that's the first time I've won anything. Thank you.
Well done, well done.
Brilliant.
And
My
did you-
spell being now. Thank
Did you
you.
register, Evelyn? We have your email, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's grand.
Thank
And
you.
for £100, Sean O'Hara. Sean there?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you.
Hey, Sean. Yeah, there you go.
Thank
So
you.
that's fine. We'll be in contact via email, folks. Okay,
John, we
that's
have
all
your
from me.
email as well.
You do, yep.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Back to you, Phil.
Look, just to round it up, I just appreciate everybody's time and of course Ken's input here and sharing the sort of the offerings from Samaritans and a wee bit about the background and the good work that they do. Look, I mean, I know what it's like from the mental health first aid point of view.
Phil, you okay? Can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I appreciate sort of the time and effort everybody's put in here to listen to Ken, and Ken, your delivery was great, sort of explaining about the offerings from Samaritans themselves. There are lots of things there people can get connected with and maybe use in their own schools, or join with other colleagues within their schools to implement. That's fantastic. Well done to the prize winners. There's a wee thing to go away and celebrate tonight. That's fantastic as well. I know myself now, the first port of call is going to be probably Tesco's to get a wee bit of after sun for my head here. I don't think I'll ever tell anybody to shush now. Ken, that's one of the things. Now you've just destroyed that wee phrase for me, because yeah, that's quite a good wee thing to think about there. And again, that having the courage to be able to ask the question, it is frightening to ask that question, because you don't want to hear the answer that you might hear, so that's one of those things. Look, we're going to obviously send out some feedback and follow-up sort of surveys on this. We'll send out the links and the information that Ken provided to us. We're also always looking for ideas of what we can do to help the teaching and education sort of. You guys are out there, we can put things on, but we want it to be relevant and useful to yourselves, and again, all I can just say is thank you for today's connections. It's not our phrase today. Hopefully you've got something out of it. Now we'll sort of finish off the call here, but we'll stay online if anybody wants to come off mute and maybe connect with Ken in person or whatever. Okay, but
Thank you.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
everybody. Okay,
Thank you very much indeed,
Thank you.
Phil and Elaine and Paul and everybody. I mean, it's a great opportunity to tell a bit more about Samaritans and so on. And anybody, please do get in touch. Whatever we can do to help and support, do. And I say there's 8 branches across the province, are all there to help out. So it's been marvelous to be able to be part of this, Phil, and I really, and Elaine and Paul, I really thank you so much.
thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Can you cut the recording, Phil, please?